Welcome, everybody. This is the session on improvements in the PeopleSoft Fluid UI. I'm Matthew Hosta with People Tools, and I'm joined by my colleague Sumita. And hats off to her particularly, since she's joining us from India, and it's literally the middle of the night there, so she's exhibiting some extra special dedication in presenting our session today. We are going to be talking about some things that are coming up in the future, so the safe harbor statement applies today. Our goal today is to help you understand not only what we're doing with the UI right now, but some of the new technologies that are coming along. So chatbots, some of the new reporting and analytic features, and configuration features that you might not necessarily associate this with the UI immediately, but it helps you configure the UI to meet your needs. We're also going to provide a sneak peek of some of the features that are coming up or that are planned for an upcoming release. So here's our agenda. Sumita's first going to cover the new visual refresh and some UI improvements. Then I'm going to talk about chatbots, which is new technology that's available now in PeopleSoft UI. I'll talk about actionable analytics, so Kibana and personalized analytic notifications primarily. And then I'll talk about configuring the UI, making it your own, making it meet your company's needs. And then we'll get into the things that are planned for the future. So Sumita, you want to take it away there?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Matthew. Okay,
go for it.
So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start mostly with the new fresh look and feel for our new Fluid UI. And this is something we introduced during 8.5.8, where we moved away from heavy gradients and a lot of images, and we made our UI simple, flat, more modern looking interface with lightweight widgets. And we actually revamped the whole of the UI and our micro interactions like hover over, activate, and other stylings. And it was a holistic picture. It was not just for Fluid. We also made the style changes for Classic during 8.5.6 actually. So let's look at some of the pages that we did and some of our core components and how they look now. Okay. So here is a quick, like a very small snapshot of our tabs and some of the controls like buttons and a banner and icons. You could see we have lightweight icons now, which are like outline icons for 8.5.8, which is very light compared to the previous versions until 8.5.7. And these all were updated for the entire Fluid and as well as Classic. Now, Matthew, could we go to next one? Okay. So here is our brand new login page, and this is completely responsive. It works on a tablet, desktop, and also on small form factor. It's completely fluid and responsive. And our new homepage is very modern looking. It is very light color now, and also it's very flat. You could see you have a gradient strip at the top. The tiles and icons are same. However, the banner icons have changed, and we also have improved the footer and some of the other icons and colored areas. So this is our new dashboard. And this is a special dashboard because this one has a contextual banner in the dashboard, right? So here we could see if one has more than one job, they could change a different kind of job, and then they can actually see different types of data for that. And this has, our dashboard is more visual. It has more information from all sectors, as we'll also see in the next slide, where we'll see information from pivot grids and Kibana. So it's more of a visual, and it's more of informative as compared to the previous version, which was just like data. So it's just, we have improved our dashboards as well. And yeah, so this is what I was talking about, that Kibana based dashboard and pivot grid based dashboard for the tiles.
Yeah, this is interesting because it does contain both conventional pivot grids and some Kibana tiles as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see some more Kibana coming up later in the session as well.
Yeah, and what is nice about it is that this all works seamlessly across devices. So it's just that's one thing. And this is the lightweight model. Now our header is all flat gray, and we have moved away from tangerine for the model header to a black header, simple color buttons. Primary buttons are now blue, and secondary or the generic buttons are light white color with the blue outline. And you could see that the same styling has also been applied for our Classic Plus pages, right? Which also now look very similar, seamless to the Fluid one with the tabs, buttons, and grids.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to see the related information. And for the related information, we made quite a few changes, right? So we also have made it very easy to personalize related information actually. So we see the related information in forms of tiles as well as links, right? And there is a way to actually show the links first or the tiles first. And there's also a way where we could convert the links to tiles or tiles to links, right? And you could also drag and drop, move it up and down. We can delete, we can do reset and completely get back the original setting. So these are all improvements done in the recent UI for the Fluid. So we'll just go through some of the screens and see how they look and how they perform, right? Okay. So on this screen, we'll see we have two links at the top. We have headcount location and we have performance planning. Those two are links for the related information, right? And we have tiles below. We have current headcount profile and some of the tiles. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna see how we're going to take those links and put it at the bottom, right? And we want to move the tiles up because maybe we're just looking more on the analytics kind of interface, right? Not just links. So yeah, so we'll go to the gear icon, we'll click on the gear icon, and once we go to the settings, now we can see that we will actually have the link first in the first drop down, right? We'll make it to tile first, and when you save it and when you come back now on the main page, it will see that actually the tiles are actually now first and links are actually in the second.
Yeah, and notice that these are personalizations. So the changes that you make here only apply to you. Each user can set them for themselves.
Okay. Okay, so we can also again move back. We'll do one more thing. We'll again move it back. We'll move the tile first and to link first, and then we'll do one thing. We'll actually take the performance planning, which is the link, and we'll convert that to a tile. So when we do that, now we'll see that, okay, we have moved the links up and we have actually converted a tile to converted a link to more informative tile. So all this can be done actually. All these are very flexible. All this can be done. This can be moved up, changed, and it's very flexible in that way.
Okay.
Okay. So activity guide templates. So in activity guide templates, we also made quite a few changes, like enhancements, and so yeah. So one of the things is that we now have the capability of multi-language data while creating template instance, right? So when we create an instance, we can create the instance in multiple languages, right? Multi-language data. That's very easy now to do that. And also we can determine the number of steps that is not assigned to the user, and we can actually programmatically hide it. So that's good. So you'll not see the steps which are not necessary to the user. So we'll only see those that are valid. So all these things can be done now through the template, and it's actually doesn't require anymore the portal administrator role for that. Now, one other feature is spell check and counter. So this is introduced for the long edit fields mainly, right? Because the long edit fields is one where we could enter and type a lot more data. So we now have the capability to show a counter so that when we're typing, we know that how many characters are actually available, right? So you don't have to do the mental math and or keep typing and seeing. That's possible. And if we do some kind of an error, we can actually correct the error, right? And automatically add the word to the dictionary, so that next time we don't make it an error, or it just automatically corrects it. So that's actually another feature that we have added. So Matthew, could you show that video?
Yes. Okay. Could you see that okay? Sumita?
Yeah, I could see that. I hope others could. Yeah.
It's hard because in this there's not a lot of feedback for us as presenters, unfortunately. But anyway.
So we are getting some questions also, Matthew. So we'll be taking it at now or later.
Let's take them at the end if that's okay, unless they're very specific that they need. If you think they need to be answered now, I can't see them right now because I'm in full screen. It's up to you.
Okay, so I'll talk about the next feature, new window, which is we can now actually open the fluid components in a new window. So that's another feature, and that's available through that actions link actually. So when you have actions menu, when you click on that, we have a link through which you can open any component to the new window. So that's another feature that we have added.
All right, thank you, Sumita. And we're going to hear some more from Sumita a little bit later on in the session. So right now, I'm going to talk about chatbots a bit. There are actually a lot of sessions on chatbots at this conference, and I've got one tomorrow with a couple of customers where you can see what they've done already, and it's very impressive. So I hope you can attend some of these. Chatbots are something that is really taking off. There are a lot of advantages to it that we'll talk about. But basically, it's a new way to interface with your applications. It's not meant to replace the conventional UI. Obviously, somebody who's in accounts payable is not going to use a chatbot for data entry and stuff like that. But for things like self-service or casual users or navigation to things that are infrequently used, chatbots can be really, really useful. And they have proven, as I mentioned, some of our customers are using them already and are proving more effective than human agents. So it's something you really should look into. So with chatbots with PeopleSoft, this is available already. You can use our delivered skills. You can extend those skills that we deliver, or you can create your own. And all of these are supported by the Oracle Digital Assistant, which I'll get into a little bit here, but again, this will be covered in greater depth in some of the chatbot specific presentations. The other thing that's kind of neat is you can use, because you're using ODA, Oracle Digital Assistant, you can use your chatbots across other applications, not just PeopleSoft. The PeopleSoft skills that we deliver are available in the Oracle Skills Store. You can deploy them from the Skills Store. It's much easier. When we first introduced this, they were distributed as files and PUM images, but this is a much better and more elegant way to get skills from us. It allows them also to be versioned and managed in the Skills Store. So when you take a new version of a particular skill, it manages that change a lot easier. It eliminates the need for making a custom copy. And again, having the extensibility toolkit is really terrific because then you can configure our delivered bots to meet your needs a little bit more specifically without changing the delivered content. And also, this is a consistent delivery method that meets that's similar to the way that our SaaS applications are delivered. So if you want to use or acquire PeopleSoft chatbots, you do need a license for Oracle Digital Assistant. This is a PaaS cloud application that you can license from either Oracle Application Sales or the technical sales. I suspect that most of our customers will go the application sales route because They can license either per employee or a subset of their employees as a list of named users. The technical sales version is you pay as you go. That is the round trip. You pay, some small amount for each conversation round trip, or you can do as a monthly flex plan. If you want to use our skills, then you can download those from the skills store, as I mentioned before and showed there. However, of course, if you're creating your own, you don't need to use step 2 at all. You can just build your own and create them. And you'll see a lot of examples of that specifically in some of the other chatbot sessions. Then you just configure ODA for and then connect it with PeopleSoft. And again, the details of that are in some of the other sessions. But it's a pretty straightforward process. So, as I mentioned, Oracle Digital Assistant is a required license to run PeopleSoft chatbots. You can do it either as a cloud service, the app service, or the tech service. The platform gives you the right to extend the skills, as I mentioned, and you can connect them to any backend, including third parties, not PeopleSoft, if you want. You can also use all the features of ODA for custom skills without PeopleSoft applications. The PeopleSoft skills that you get from us are available at no additional cost. So if you download, while you may be subscribing to ODA, you don't have to pay for the skills that we deliver. Those come with your PeopleSoft license. And as I said, I think this is a really important feature, being able to extend the skills with the extensibility tool. So if you need to implement chatbots with PeopleSoft, you need PeopleSoft 85707 or later. For using our images, you'll need the update images that you see there, and then you need the Oracle Digital Assistant subscription, as I mentioned. I want to point out that we have a page on PeopleSoftInfo.com dedicated specifically to chatbots, and there's a lot of information out there. So if you're interested in chatbots, I recommend going to that page and looking at some of the collateral that we are delivering. Okay. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about actionable analytics, and I'm going to focus mostly on 2 features. As you know, PeopleSoft delivers or offers a lot of different reporting and analytic options. I'm going to concentrate on 2 specifically today because of value that I think they have, particularly with the user interface and things that users can really benefit from by using it. So Kibana is a visualization and analytic tool that's provided by the same people that created Elasticsearch. It's delivered by us. We deliver a version of it that's essentially the same as the Elastic version. It's just that ours contains security plugins and other things that enable it to be integrated with PeopleSoft. It's installed via our DPKs, but it gives you all those same kind of rich visualization options. So the benefits to you and to your users in particular is a great reporting and analytic power and no license cost and easy deployment. So it's quite a rich tool that doesn't cost a lot to use, or much to use. So when would you use Kibana and when would you use pivot grids? Well, they share some things in common. They can, with 8.5, as of 8.5.8, both can be embedded in dashboards and in related content. So that was something new for Kibana in 8.5.8. Pivot grids, of course, could have that opportunity for a long time. Both adhere to PeopleSoft security. So in both cases, people can't see data that they're not entitled to see. And both have incremental cost to use. The big advantage for Kibana is really in performance and speed. So in a couple of ways that takes effect. One, if you're working with large volumes of data where this could severely impact performance, then Kibana is the best approach there because it works against the Elastic Index. It's not the PeopleSoft database, so performance is very fast. The other aspect of that that's valuable is that there's no impact on PeopleSoft online performance. So even if you're running a large analytic, it won't affect transaction times and things like that. There are also some features of Kibana that are kind of nice, like being able to track object changes over time. So with pivot grids, and I'll show some examples of this in a minute, one nice thing is being able to use thresholds and notifications. So you can implement business rules, have users notified when those rules have been violated. The other thing is pivot grids are contextual to transactions. So the information that you want is right in the context of what task you're trying to accomplish or what business process. You can also use simplified analytics with pivot grids, which allow end users to really do a lot of slicing and dicing of their analytics and manipulating them without having to engage reporting specialists or technology folks just to get their simple analytics done. So we did make some changes in 858. We made access to Kibana for application data within the PeopleSoft user interface. And I'll show you examples about this. So it lets you discover application data that's stored in Elasticsearch indexes. You can see relationships between that data. You can index that application data and run the analytics on it. You can also analyze unstructured data like web and file sources. And we included Elastic 7 in 858. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So as Sunita showed you earlier in a PeopleSoft dashboard, you can have tiles with pivot grids, but you can also have tiles that represent Kibana dashboards and Kibana visualization. So in this case, we're open the workforce equity dashboard in Kibana, and that displays there. And it's the same data. And notice that it's in the PeopleSoft container, so you still have access to the home page. You can search, and all sorts of other things. You can also, if you've been granted edit privileges to this dashboard, you can open it in Kibana for even more power. So all the full power of Kibana for specific users that you grant access to. So there they can create new visualizations, new dashboards, and so on. You can also create these Kibana tiles and put them in the related information framework, as you can see in the upper right portion of this slide. I took that out. So this is what it looks like. If I have the edit privileges, I can open it in Kibana. It opens that same visualization. Again, the same dashboard, same data, everything like that. I can create a new visualization, choose what type I want, and so on, and then go through that process. I don't really have time to show the entire process today, but I wanted to indicate that that is available to you and to your users, to whoever you want to grant that privilege. So just in summary of Kibana, you've got great analytic power, great performance. It's easy to use, super easy for end users and administrators. The other thing that's nice is it's a Kibana and Elasticsearch are, of course, the key applications for the Elastic company, so they're constantly enhancing it. We are also recognizing that as a big feature, and so we're enhancing our PeopleSoft search framework, and we're doing some things that I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But I think you can rely on the fact that this is going to be a very powerful option that you'll have going forward. Again, easy deployment. It takes advantage of the existing infrastructure that we already have in place. Like Chatbots, we have an analytics page out there with a tab specifically for Kibana. There's a lot of information out there, so I would recommend going to PeopleSoftInfo.com, going to Tools and Frameworks and Analytics, and then looking at the Kibana tab for more information there. Now let me take a quick drink of water, and then we'll get on to personalized analytic notification. So this is a great way that you can introduce business rules in PeopleSoft. I sort of think of it as a way to almost make PeopleSoft a lightweight expert system, where you can document your business rules in PeopleSoft and then have PeopleSoft alert your users when conditions need their attention, when certain criteria are met. They can receive notifications via email, text, or alerts, and I'll show you examples of those in a minute. But basically, the key thing is here, it really changes the way users interact with PeopleSoft, or it has the ability to do that. So you can take any normal pivot grid, whether it's standalone or whether it's part of simplified analytics, and you can introduce a threshold in there. So this could be a distinct value when an expense, for example, exceeds a certain range. You can generate a threshold notification for that. When a supplier is late for something, I mean, there are all sorts of options. The real value comes in. I want to highlight two of it. There's four aspects, right? So it's very easy to set up for administrators. It's also really easy for end users to use. It uses existing analytic frameworks, so there's not anything else that you really need to install or configure or integrate with. But the key things that I think, the two most important value features are that it really lets you capture and enforce important business rules within PeopleSoft. So, as I mentioned, all these things that might be important to your business that you really want to address and you want your users to know about right away when some of these conditions occur, you can put those in your analytics and then they'll be notified. The other thing is that users don't need to be logged into PeopleSoft to get these notifications. So you can be out, you could be on a plane at an airport, maybe not these days, but out and about, and you can get a text or an email that will let you know about that. And I'll show you some examples in a second. These are the options that you can create thresholds for. So ranges, you could have a range of values and have the threshold trigger when something goes above a range, below a range, within a range, or outside of a range. Then there's also distinct values, when something is equal to, not equal to, greater than, or less than. And as I mentioned, you can get push alerts, which are notifications within the application. You can also get email notifications or texts as of 858. You can also designate users and roles that receive the notification. And those are set in the pivot grid wizard. So here's an example of sort of the types of notifications that your users can receive if a threshold has been violated. So in the upper right corner, you see the in-app notification. Then you have an email version and a text version. I should point out that users receive only one message for all the violations of a particular threshold. So for example, if there are a dozen violations of a particular threshold, they'll only get one notification saying there have been violations. You won't be inundated, or your users won't be inundated with numerous notifications. Clicking on the notification will take them to the pivot grid where they can see the violation and then act on it. Your administrator will set the notification frequency. So how often the threshold is tested, and then how often the notifications are generated. So we also have enhanced personalized notifications recently, and I'm showing a couple of those here. Instead of having a single notification that runs across all of your data points, you can have a threshold on an individual data point. So let's say, for example, 1 month in particular, you want to be notified about a condition that exists. You could do that. You can also have dual thresholds where you have dual access pivot grids. So in the case on the right there, we have a distinct threshold for one of the values, the inventory amount, and then you have a range for the preload one. So when something goes inside or outside of a range. So I think you can see on all of these how analytics can really influence the user interface and how they can make accomplishing your users' tasks and business processes easier and more effective, having information that they need at hand when they're trying to perform their jobs. So again, like Kibana, if you go to the analytics page on PeopleSoftInfo.com, you'll see a lot of additional info on simplified analytics and pivot grids. There's a lot of videos there and all kinds of other documentation that I hope you'll find valuable. So now I'm going to talk about making the UI your own. And by that I mean configuration. So why do you do it and how do you do it? The primary benefit is to remove customization. So you can make your changes to your PeopleSoft applications much less expensive to upgrade. So you don't have to re-implement change all the time when you have customizations. But what I want to get into in this session, since this is about the UI, is that it really can help you, it can enable you to change the UI to make it fit your business and support the users that you have and the needs that they have by changing the data, the logic, and the appearance of your applications. So you can do this in three ways. You can do this I'm sorry, oops, back there. You can do this at one fell swoop in a big bang effort. You can do it incrementally. That is, anytime you have a PUM cycle and you're running compare reports, you can address the ones that are hit in the compare report, or you can cherry pick them and identify the ones that impact your uptake of new images most often and perhaps are the most expensive, or the ones that you want to really address first. So there are several features that allow you to minimize the impact of change, but also change your user interface. And again, I want to highlight that aspect. The one I want to talk about first is Page and Field Configurator. So that one allows you to change things like labels, make things required, make things hidden. A lot of those sort of simple changes that people often make to the UI. You can even hide pages and things like that. Those are the sort of changes that you want to make, and you want to make them without having them be a customization that impacts your upgrade. So Page and Field Configurator is a very simple and easy tool to use. It doesn't require you to go into App Designer to make these changes, and it can have a profound effect on your user interface and the way that your users perceive your pages. Drop zones enable you to make changes to the pages themselves by adding custom fields, labels, widgets, whatever you might want to add to the page. You add those within a drop zone, and then whatever is in that drop zone is not affected when you take the next version from us. So if you make a change to a page, those changes are automatically applied when you take the next image, and you don't have to re-implement those changes again. Similarly with event mapping, you can write custom code and have that code injected and either before or after events that run in our application, in our pages. It gives you complete access to the component buffer, so you can do all kinds of processing that you want. It's assigned through the related content framework. So a lot of customers have really used these features extensively to not only isolate change, but to influence their user interface and make it look the way they want and behave the way they want, and to provide the rules that are right for their business. A couple other things I want to mention. Forms and Approval Builder lets you replace paper forms with online forms. And it also lets you automate those processes, have those processes online instead of having them all manual, passing paper forms around. Also, don't forget about related content. Sumita brought it up in her portion there, but I also want to mention that related content can be used for anything, not just analytics. I've seen customers put training videos, training documentation, all third-party website information, all sorts of things with related content that you think may be valuable in helping your users accomplish their task. So I'm going to take a quick look at Page and Field Configurator here again. Works on new and existing components. It's got great set of features, and people have been using it for a long time. Initially, it was only available for Classic, but now it's available for Fluid as well. So these are some of the things that you can do. You can change labels, you can hide fields, you can disable entry, require entry, provide default values, hide and disable things. And now, one of the recent features is now you can mask sensitive data. I do want to point out that, and now, as I mentioned, it has full support for Fluid. I want to reinforce the fact that Page and Field Configurator is supplied through enterprise components. So you get that through enterprise components, not through tools. So here's a look at it. As I mentioned, you don't have to go into App Designer. It's a very simple page where you can define the criteria. You can choose the field that's being modified. You can modify the label, hide the field, disable, and so on. There are also multiple. This is quite a handy feature. You can have multiple configurations available for different users and different roles. So, for example, some of your users might see a particular label. Other users might see a different label or see different things hidden. You can also disable and hide things based on your form factor, which is really nice. So, for example, if you want to hide some complexity when your users are seeing things on a phone versus a large form factor. So there's really a lot of power in Page and Field Configurator. So I encourage you to look into that in terms of how you can influence your user interface. There's also a session specifically dedicated to Page and Field Configurators. So you might want to check that out too. And that's at Reconnect this year. So event mapping, as I said, this lets you change the logic. It's completely separate from our delivered code. Again, allows you complete access to the component buffer. So there's a lot you can do with it. We initially introduced event mapping in 8.5.5. That was enhanced every release since. So more events included in 8.5.6 and 8.5.7, 8.5.8. We've also got tools now for the developer that show where event mapping exists. And I'll talk about some things that are coming up for that later. A few considerations: it's people code only. It's component-based people code. It's not object-oriented, so you can't overwrite things in a parent, for example, via child. It's inject and run before or after our delivered code. You can't change any of our delivered people code. You can only inject your code before or after our events. And as I said, these are, I'll kind of blow through this quick, but this is actually updated now. There are even more events that are available now. This was as of 8.5.6, but there have been more introduced there. Drop zones, as I said, you can place your own custom fields in our delivered pages without impact. I do want to emphasize here that drop zones, you should use drop zones that are delivered by our applications teams. And if you go on PeopleSoftInfo.com, you can get information on every single page that our applications teams where they're delivering drop zones. And from what I understand, the applications teams have been delivering them on almost all of the Fluid pages. And now the drop zones are available for Classic pages, which is supported in 8.5.8. They're being delivered in Classic pages as well on application images that are being delivered on 8.5.8. Again, the big benefit here is it reduces lifecycle management time for the pages that you want to make changes on. But again, this lets you change pages to meet your users' requirements. So there's really two big benefits here. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about branding. So branding in Fluid, it's really easy. In the past, people they used the PeopleSoft Interaction Hub to create a rich website or a rich-looking user interface for people. But with Fluid, you can do that quite easy in macro sets. And there's a spotlight video out there on branding with macro sets. So you can change almost anything in your Fluid UI. You can change the background colors, the colors of almost every element in the Fluid UI. You can change up to 218 elements of the Fluid user interface. Optionally, you can also create a company info banner that will appear above the header, which you can see in the example up here. And there you can have your graphics and icons. You can have links to other things like the ones that you see here. So a lot of customers are taking advantage of this. It's a really powerful thing to really make your PeopleSoft applications represent your brand, your enterprise or institution's brand. Okay, now let's take a look at what's coming up. I will say that we're not able to show you some of the things that we're working on. Unfortunately, there's some restrictions in place that don't allow us to show you this graphically, but we do want to talk about this because there are some things that we're working on that we think are really going to enhance Fluid, and this is probably the first really dramatic change to Fluid since it was introduced in 8.5.4. So let's take a look at some of those and let's talk about them. So Sumita, do you wanna kick this off? Let's talk about some of the new features that are coming up.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So this is the first actually major user experience improvement after 8.5.8. So 8.5.8 was majorly on UI look and feel, visual refresh, but in 8.5.9 we'll have a couple of a few features which would think actually would help you to directly access your tiles, your task based on your role very easily and very nicely. So one of the couple of things that we have made changes is that we have like a centralized global search now, which is primary on the homepage, right? We'll have a search in the banner. We can just start your day right from the search, or you could just start from the tiles, right? That's one thing. And then we have a quick access bar, which is a very short and quick feature from extracted from the nav bar. So we don't have to go to nav bar and dig into details and all those things to look into recently visited places or favorites, but you can just quickly jump to the quick access bar and you can open our favorites, you can arrange favorites, or we can go to the recently visited places right from the homepage. And these are homepage specific features mostly, but these will help you to start your day either by browsing or by navigating, whichever is your way, right? And that is actually one of the features we thought is really would helpful. And likewise, we'll have a dedicated notification center on the homepage, which is the enhancements of the entire notifications actually. So it's not just on homepage centric, but it is overall, it's for the all. If you go and navigate through the transactions, you will see the improved notifications where we'll have more latest date timestamp, a relative date timestamp. Then we can have a prior notification shown with the priority if priority is enabled, and all the sort of things. And just from the UI perspective, actually, the whole panel is being used now. It's not just like a small pop-up. So we have the entire room to show more notifications on the go, and it's overall it has improved experience in that. And we also have improved our nav bar. Now it is like incremental improve to the nav bar, where we will be showing all the links, nav bar links and all with categorized by alphabetically, right? And that's just the setting. You could just have the system default setting, right? Or you could see your links in the nav bar alphabetically, which is now easy to sort and easy to see. Actually, that's one of the things for the nav bar menu. We have also improved the swap the icons actually, and actually these are now lightweight icons again for the nav bar. And we along with that, if you look at the small form factor, which is just like a conceptual image here, the small form factor tiles are widened. So the smallest of the tile, which used to be 1 by 1 tile, right? It is now would be 2 by 1 tile. So it has more room to show more information, and it would work well for the translations and also for the accessibility reasons. So on it looks like very nice card-based kind of a design now, sort of, but it's all the same tiles for the small form factor. So that's about the homepage and navigations. Now,
You,
apart from yeah, we also have something on model sizing and grid personalization. So Matthew, will you take on that, or would you like me to?
yeah. So now we have. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but so model sizing has been improved or will be improved in the upcoming release, and also grid personalization. So that was something that was formerly available in Classic and now will be part of Fluid as well. So that was something that people have wanted for a long time. Enhancing the add to functionality. So when you want to add something that you're viewing to a home page or a nav bar, other things, we've made that easier. And then as always, accessibility. Accessibility is very important to Oracle. And PeopleSoft takes it very very seriously as well. So we are doing everything with each release. We address a couple of things. We either address bugs that have come up, accessibility bugs, and we address those just like we address any other bug. But we also attempt, make our effort to apply to the latest WCAG standards, the latest international standards for accessibility. So that's whether that's 508 or WCAG, in this case 2.1 AA. We've also enhanced the, and by the way, the WCAG subsumes 508. So if you're WCAG 2.1 compliant, you're compliant to 508. We've also made some enhancements for a dynamic screen reader mode, so a user can initiate screen reader mode much more easily, not just at login, and it doesn't have to be set by an administrator. There are several more enhancements that are coming for accessibility in the next release. And you'll see more about that in the plan features and enhancements, but I wanted to point that out here. I also want to talk a little bit, since I did speak about chatbots and how important we think chatbots are going to be in the future. Right now, we're delivering single skill bots down there at the bottom, initial chatbots. We're working toward having generalized bots or multi-skilled bots, so you don't have to say, I want to go into my absence assistant bot. You will have a PeopleSoft bot where you can ask it a number of questions and support a number of different skills, and it will just go to the right one. And then ultimately, we want to have a universal digital assistant that's headless and can be used for almost anything. So this is the roadmap for PeopleSoft Digital Assistant. We're working very hard on this, and we think, as I said, it's going to be an important part of the UI going forward. So one other thing that we're working on is real-time incremental index. Now, you might say, wait, this is a user interface presentation. What the heck does this have to do with a user interface? Well, the reason this is important is because what we're planning for here, or what we're working toward, is that when your users are in a transaction and they make a change and they save something, it will incrementally update the index. And instead of having to run an index, nightly or daily or weekly or whatever, your elastic indexes will be near real time all the time. And this influences a couple of things in the user interface. So one, it will make your Kibana reporting much more accurate, much more up to date. And it will also influence your search. So as your employees use global search to navigate around and find the transactions that they want and perform their tasks, search will be accessing near real-time data as well. So that's why this is in this presentation. So I also want to get through a few housekeeping slides here. We do have the Oracle booth at the Expo for Reconnect, so you can go there and you can ask us questions about anything that you might have seen in this session or any other session. And I'd also encourage you to visit our partner booths. They have some great stuff there, and they're contributing some great sessions at this conference, and they have a lot of interesting things to say. I'd also like to plug our blogs. We're making a greater effort these days to really provide great content in our blogs. So you can subscribe to our app strategy blog, the people, tools, or technology blog, or the legislative update blog. And as always, a great place to go for any kind of information is PeopleSoftInfo.com. That's our portal to almost anything PeopleSoft. And as I mentioned in this session, I showed you some pages for chatbots, for analytics, and so on. You can get to all of those through PeopleSoftInfo.com. Our PeopleSoft video channel is also very popular. People view those things all the time. We have spotlight videos. We have PeopleSoft Now videos that Rebecca's hosting. There are now podcasts available there as well, video feature overviews, and so on. And then there's, of course, the cumulative feature overview tool that lets you know what's coming in, upcoming releases, and the plan feature and enhancement. Okay, so I'm going to escape out of this now, and thank you for attending. And let's see about the chat. For some reason, I'm still only seeing the major chat. Let's see. Let's see. Question and answer. Slide deck. Rebecca is asking about the slide deck being available. I believe that this. I don't think they're going to. I'm not sure if they're going to send out the decks themselves, but the recordings will be available for quite some time, so you can watch this and see the slides there. You might check with Quest on the availability of the presentation itself. Jim asks about custom fields added to a drop zone. Where does that data get stored? It's stored in our database, but it is stored separately from our delivered data. So again, just as an example, if you make change to page A, and then you take a new update image from us, and page A is re-implemented as part of that new update image, your change, anything that's changed within the drop zone is automatically reapplied. Long fields in Fluid are, Hillary asks, long fields in Fluid are inherently different than rich text editor and classic pages. Have you already thought about adding rich text editor to Fluid? The answer to that is yes, we are working on that. Sumita, do you have anything else you want to add about that one? Or any of the other questions that we see here?
No.
Michelle asks about personalized choice have to be redone at each tool's release. I don't think that's true. Sumita, do you know about that?
No, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that that doesn't have to be redone, but I can't say it for 100%.
Yeah, I don't know if it maintains, if it persists though, like once you upgrade from tools to, so that's something I'm not sure about it, but
yeah,
persists to your login and activity.
Okay, so Padma asks, how is personalized analytic notification different from events and notification alerts? So these, so that's a good question, Padma, and Moha, I guess. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name. I apologize. You might want to attend. There's a session on Thursday specifically on notifications, a half-an-hour session. I think it's Thursday. It might be at 10:45 Pacific. I'm not positive, but look for that. There we'll get in a lot more on notifications, but generally personalized analytic notifications are just one type of notifications that you or your users can configure and receive. The interesting thing about these in particular are they can implement business rules that you can define in the analytic itself. So again, some examples of that might be your business has a threshold on what somebody can submit in an expense report. You may have a threshold on supplier response time, supplier response cost, or something like that. I mean, the possibilities are almost endless. I think any kind of business rule that you think is important, you can implement in pivot grids. And I'd also like to mention too that most people have tons of queries out there that capture information and rules that they care about. You can implement those as pivot grids or simplified analytics, and then implement those rules in there, and again, be notified about those all the time, or whenever anything that's important to you. Rob is saying we need to be able to run related content on fluid workflow pages. Is this capability coming soon? Rob, we are looking into that, yes. I don't know, I can't say how soon. I don't see any other questions right now. We've got a couple minutes, I'll give it a couple more minutes. Sumita, I'm still seeing only a general chat. Do you see anything in chat that you want to address? In other words, I'm not seeing chat for this session. I'm only seeing the.
Yeah, me too. I'm just seeing session and backstage, but there's nothing there. I mean, it's just.
Okay. All right. Well, let's stick with the Q&A then. I don't see anything else yet. One more minute.
Oh, there's one question here, like how is the personalized analytic notification different from events and notification alerts?
Oh, I did answer that one, Smith. Yeah. So as I said, it's just another type of notification. It's different from an event that you might schedule, for example, in Process Schedule or something like that. But um, this is specific for your business rules that you want to implement in analytics themselves. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in, so I think we can give you 3 minutes back. Sumita, again, thank you very much for staying up so late and joining for this and helping with this. And I hope everybody enjoyed the session and got something out of it. And I hope to see you at some other sessions going forward. And again, please stop by the Oracle booth, the Quest booth, or the partner booths and ask us questions about anything in the sessions. Thank you.